Hello, welcome to Empower and Ignite Transformation Podcast with Alicia and Nicole. If you're new to our channel, please subscribe and hit like if this is information that you find valuable. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing good. And the weather is obeying. It's better than it has been. It yesterday was 40 degrees and today it's like 30 something. So it definitely is improving. How about you in
It's
Atlanta?
getting nice. Oh, that's getting nice. It's getting nice. It's actually, we're looking at like 60 degrees here. It's nice. It's sunny. It's a beautiful day in Georgia. It's
Oh
really
my
nice
God.
out.
60 degrees. Listen, we
Yeah.
wish. And that's in February. So we wish, listen.
Right. Right. This is our what we call the fake spring. That's what we call the fake spring.
Okay, okay. And how's your mood?
Good. Good. My mood is pretty good. I feel I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm been getting some rest in between quarters of school. So I'm in a good mood today. What about yourself?
Okay, I am actually doing really well. Yeah, mood is good. I am just managing my business and living life for sure. So I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I think it's important for us to check in and
Mhm.
definitely ask others how they're doing. So that's an important thing for people to really realize that people might be struggling, right? And so it's nothing wrong with asking someone how they're doing.
Mhm.
Definitely letting people know that you actually care.
I agree. I agree. I think a lot of times, with the fast-paced life and things like that, we do forget to just ask people how are they doing? And we forget to check in with ourselves and figure out how we are doing.
Definitely, yeah. And with that being said, right, I think people may be thinking like, what are they talking about, right? Um, but it allows us to lead into what our topic is today, which is dismantling the stigma around mental health and seeking therapy and what mental health really is.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna dive in. We both know what mental health is, but in order for us to share it with our viewers, so that that way they know the actual definition of mental health,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna share what that definition is. So mental health is a state of emotional, psychological, and social well-being that influences how individuals think, feel, behave, and cope with life stressors, right? So oftentimes I know I will hear people say, I'm not seeking therapy or I don't want to go to therapy because that means something's wrong with me, right?
Mhm.
And they will use negative terms such as, I'm going to say the term, but it's not a nice term. That means I'm crazy, right?
Mhm.
No, that does not mean that, right? And it really is where, when you think about the definition, life has stressors in it. It's going to be at times where you become stressed because things will come up. You know that saying that everybody uses, life be lifing.
Yeah.
So
Right.
when life is lifing, that can take a toll on a person.
Mhm.
And so seeking therapy is not because something's wrong with you per se. It just is, I need to be able to have a safe place where I can not be judged. I won't be judged, right? Where I will be able to be open and vulnerable, and have that different perspective of how to process my emotions to be able to identify um, modalities and different techniques for you to heal and be mentally well.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree. And you said a lot of great things there, right? Because I think that it's not realistic for us to go through life and think that we won't take hits, right? If it comes to, grief, if it comes to divorce, if it comes to just, the anxiety, social anxiety, general anxiety, things of that nature, if it comes to just the depression, somewhere in life there's going to be a moment where things are not great, right?
Right.
And that's where that mental health comes in, and why not check in and see how you're truly dealing with things emotionally? How are
Hmm.
you processing things mentally?
Right.
Are we processing things, or are we trying to skip over things, right?
Suppressing. Yeah.
Suppressing, yes, and so things like that. There's not a real world where you just go through and every day is just full of rainbows and sunshines, because if so, I wanna go. So, it's like one of those things that we have to be realistic to know that there is going to be things that affect us, and so checking in with a therapist where you can get that unbiased opinion, where you can come and say what you can't or don't feel comfortable with saying to
Right.
others in your home or your circle and things like that, and be able to work on things that you want change for you. So I just think that it's more than just this is where, the people with, like they said, they think of it as a weakness. Like
Right.
how is it weak to talk about emotions? You have to be strong to do that. It's not the easiest thing to do.
Definitely. But I think too, when you said that, right, where did that come from when someone is thinking that that is a weakness, right? Oftentimes people are taking what they were told,
Mhm.
whether growing up, you likely have heard, you better stop crying before I give you something to cry for, or boys don't cry because
Yeah,
that means that they're weak, versus no, it's okay to cry because you're human and you have emotions
right.
and things would impact you where you might need to cry, right? It's nothing wrong with it. It's healthy to cry.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then now we live in one of these days and age where we could talk about physical health. We could talk about the gym all day, in and out, what workout plans work the best, what diet plans work the best, how to do a diet journal and all these other things and watching calories. We could do that, right? But then when it comes to talking about mental health or, even your emotional health,
Mhm.
now we don't want to talk about it. We're not going to sit there and put out there, that anxiety that we're feeling from X, Y, and Z. We're going to kind of shut down and not go and talk to no one about it. But we go to talk to personal trainers and we do things like that. But it's the more as we invest in our physical health, we should be investing in the mental health, the
Mhm.
spiritual health, emotional health. There's just more to it than just
Right.
one avenue.
That's true. And the fact that people are not identifying that your mind and is actually controlling the body, right? So it really is like that health. If that mind isn't right, like
Mhm.
you need to know, like for sure that, hey, it's okay for me to check in. It's okay for me to see a therapist because not that something necessarily has to be wrong with you. Let's like really normalize seeing a therapist because I want to be able to process my thoughts and emotions with someone that is a professional, versus being able to just not share or gossip and talk about it with friends and or
Right.
family, but still don't get a resolution to what I'm trying to get for myself, right?
Mhm.
Like really sitting with yourself and knowing like, okay, so in therapy, it's not that we give you the answer to anything that's coming up for you, but we give you the techniques and the tools and skills to be able to process emotions and thoughts
Right,
so you
right.
can heal.
Yeah, and like I tell everybody, it was like, they'll go to the whole thought process. I'm not gonna go and lay on someone's couch and just tell them how I feel, and what is that going to do for me? And it's like, let's just talk about that here, right? You have an emotion, a feeling, a thought that is bothering you, that is weighing heavy on you. You don't feel comfortable in talking to family, friends, loved ones, and yet it's bothering you. So why not have a place where you go and it's it's again, it's therapy is what you make it, right? It could be a place where you need to go and just dump out everything that you're feeling because you've been holding it in for so long. Or maybe some people just don't hear you the way you want to be heard. And that's a big thing, right? But like you said, going back to that mind being a powerful thing, the people don't understand, right? The way that we perceive things in our mind dictates our emotions and the way that we feel about it, the
Mhm.
way that we handle it, and that's how we behave. So
Mhm.
when we have these behaviors, or even children who is like, okay, well, they're acting out. Well, let's talk about it. Is something bother them emotionally because they could have mentally processed something that they wasn't loved properly, right? Or however that they feel, and this is how they're behaving. So
Right.
it's more than just, you know, letting it go and be like,
Mhm.
"You'll get over it."
Yeah.
No, we gotta process it.
Yeah, I always give the analogy of when someone is suppressing emotions, right? You know how the tea kettle, when you got the tea kettle on the stove
Mhm,
and it gets the whistling and the steam, and it's like, because it has nowhere to go, right? So it's gonna come, it has to evaporate and come out, right?
mhm,
So that's the same thing when you suppress. When you continue to suppress, it has nowhere to go. Eventually, that's why oftentimes by the time someone is like really coming to see a therapist, or they're like, I'm experiencing anxiety or depression or anger, because they're explosive, because you've suppressed so many things over
mhm,
the span of your life
right,
that it's like, okay, yeah, I was able to handle that years ago, a while ago, but now I need you to let this on out. And so then
mhm,
they're coming and they're like, I don't know what happened. I don't
yeah,
know why I can't control my emotions. I don't know why I can't stop crying. Because the build up,
right.
and it had nowhere to go. So eventually it's going to come out.
Yeah, we should have been processing it as we went
Hmm.
along. Along the way, we should have been having that outlet where we're sitting there in our emotions and feeling what we need to feel to be able to process it. And a lot of times we don't want to feel it. It's easier not to feel it. It's easier
Yeah.
not to feel the guilt, the shame, the sadness, whatever the emotion is that you're skipping over. It's easy not to. It's joyful to feel happy. Like, we all wanna feel that
Right.
all the time, so we
Yeah.
suppress a lot of things. But it's
Hmm.
one of those things that pain and hurt, that is the most thing that stick to people, and people don't realize it, and that right there already brings up so many more emotions and more, things that kinda need to be processed because pain sticks with us. We
Yeah.
remember pain.
Yeah. And then too, even when you think about traumatic experiences that people have had, like processing that to be able to heal from that, right? Because it's going to show up somewhere in your life. And sometimes people are wondering like, well, why am I this way or that way, right? In
Mhm.
therapy, you go on a self-discovery journey. You become self-aware and you get to decide what you choose to do with the awareness, right?
Right.
So people think that it's just one way when it comes to therapy, in the sense of I'm going to get diagnosed with having this mental illness, when
Mhm.
that's not the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
So definitely knowing that it really allows you to go on a self-discovery journey, becoming self-aware, and then liberating you. Like, that's such a liberation to know yourself.
Right. A lot of people nowadays, they can honestly say they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And that's because that they're missing that factor. They have been suppressing feelings, emotions, or becoming who society wants them to become versus being able to walk into their own definition of themselves. And that right there kind of sticks with them because now it's one of them things that, I've been put on this act my whole life being strong when I'm an emotional little bird who wanna cry, right?
Yeah.
So, it's little things like that, and it's like, all it takes is an hour. It
Mm,
takes an hour a week, an hour every 2 weeks, an hour a month, right?
right.
But there is a way to have that moment to be able to check in on how you're feeling. And again, that goes back to the, but don't forget your friends and family. Check in on them. How are they doing? What are they struggling with? Do they want to talk about it? You
Right.
know, if they don't want to talk about it, the same way that we suggest, and you suggest the same way, therapy, where
Hmm.
they can go have that person who, will be there to hear them for what they are trying to deliver.
Yeah, definitely. I like that you brought up the fact of how long a session is, right? So, and being able to tell and let people know that it doesn't necessarily mean, depending on what a person is going through, you can be in session weekly for an hour, or you can be coming to therapy sessions every 2 weeks or once a month. It just depends on where the person is and what they need. And so, not for them to think like, okay, so what would I have to do or how long would I have to be in therapy? It really is where you create a treatment goal with your therapist, like you're working together in what it is that you want to accomplish during your time in therapy. And from
Mhm.
that goal, then is set in place about how often, what that looks like. The client has the control. The therapist is there to assist and help them through the process of healing, but it really is the client doing the work.
Correct, correct, and that's the biggest thing, and that's why, I go back to the, it is what you make of it, right? And it is how fast you want it to go. Some people is like, this concern for them, may be like, "I need it done now," like, "I need to come," 2 times a week, once, 4 times a week, so, I need to come. And then the other person, it may not. It may be different because, again, everything is individualized, right? It's something that we create together. So it's not as so much as, you're coming in and it's like, oh, she's talking about something I don't want to talk about. No, we're talking about exactly
What
what
you
you,
want to talk about because it's
yeah,
your session.
is
You're
your session.
right. So, yes, will the therapist ask you questions for sure?
Mm,
But you also come in with what it is that's coming up for you
yeah.
that you want to address. And
Hmm.
that's how the therapist knows how to guide the session. But it really is where at any point in time, it can be switched to what additional things you want to address or how you want it to go. So it really isn't that it's one format. It has to go this way. Because so often I might have a client that says, "Oh, I just was all over the place." That's okay. It's your session.
Hmm. And they don't realize you gain so much from being all over the place, right? Because this is the things that is bothering you. These are things
Right.
that are affecting you, and
Hmm.
these are the things that are keeping you up at night.
Hmm.
So, how can we process other things, right, from the past, things like that, thinking about your future, planning for that, when the things right now is bothering you, right? We gotta get you to a place where you feel comfortable with where you are now, so then we can start talking about the past and the things that led up to what you're looking for change or relief or, whatever you're coming. So I think that that's a big thing, but it's just one of those things to remember that the mental health aspect of it is truly important, like checking in on yourself. That is the most important part of it, no matter how you do it. If it's going in your, for instance, you have children do the sand play, they do art, the art tells a story. Like there's so many other ways, and it is about what makes
Right.
you feel comfortable to tell your story the way you want to be heard.
Yeah, I mean, I think people may not know that there's play therapy, right? And that there's other forms of therapy besides talk therapy, So it is other outlets of therapy that you can use. Some therapists, definitely may be trained in those areas or specialize in those areas. And for people to know that they can seek out the therapist that they're looking for and that if a therapist is not the fit, it's okay.
Right.
I don't think like, oh my gosh, if I end therapy with this particular therapist, that that's an issue. You got to find the right fit for you because the benefit is for the client, it's not for the therapist.
Correct, correct, and I think that's the biggest thing because it's one of those things, how can someone motivate you when you don't feel any sense of this person's a good fit for me, right? If I feel like you don't see things the way I see it, let's say religion wise, and you don't, believe in religion, then that's hard, right? For that therapist to be a fit for you because you want to talk about God and, things of that nature. So you have to find someone who can understand
Mhm.
you the way you wanna be understood, and that is important, and it's okay to shop around, like, you don't just meet one person and be like, "That's the man I'm gonna marry, that's the woman I'm gonna marry." No, a lot of times too, nowadays anyway, you shop around until you find like, "Okay, this is the one that have the best qualities that I can fit with." She sees, he hears what I'm trying to deliver, and that's okay. That's totally fine, and that's totally open because it's important. It's important to feel that connection on my therapist isn't she don't understand what I'm going through. Like, that's hard. That's hard to
Yeah.
think and then trying to progress.
Hmm. Yeah, that's important. And I'm glad you said that because building rapport, trusting your therapist so that you can actually have the experience necessary to heal, right? As therapists, we're trained to do no harm, and to ensure that we are putting the client first.
Right.
So we would want the client to feel comfortable and be open and really wanting that relationship, therapeutic relationship to work. And if it doesn't fit, it's okay. It's
It
so
is.
okay.
Yeah, because it's one of the things that you in the way that you do therapy, right? And then will be completely different from the way that I do therapy. And then that's also to say you being an LPC would do therapy a lot different than an LMSW as well. So that's why when we say that finding that right fit, that is truly what it is because it is going to be different approaches, different modalities. They're going to be trained in different things. So when you say like, are you trained in CBT? Are you trained in EMDR? Are you trained in brain spotting? Like all those different, modalities, that makes a big difference. That does.
And people can be trained in the same thing, but it still goes back to whether or not the rapport
Right.
is a fit, and if you're building the rapport, if that's a connection that you have, right? Because I know oftentimes we may specialize in a different modality or our, like knowing that, okay, so yes, we could have the same, we may have trained in the same modalities, but if that client just doesn't feel that connection and wanting to open up with that therapist, it's okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always say, anytime that you're searching for your therapist, go in there and do the work. Do the work and actually, what is the criteria you're looking for? Are you looking for, a therapist who is in person because you feel more comfortable in talking in person versus virtual? Are you looking for somebody who is a woman versus a man, someone, who share the same spirituality as you, that can
Right.
help you in that instance
Yeah.
that you feel comfortable in talking about, things that bother you. But it's literally making sure that you do your homework as well on the type of therapist you're looking for because that's important too.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
And
so
even
important.
when it comes down to race, right? It's okay to have a preference.
Right. It
That's
is.
not a negative.
It's not at
You want
all.
somebody, if you're like, hey, no, I want a therapist of a certain race because whether I feel like they can relate to me, that's okay.
That's so big because I mean, for instance, if a mom like myself, it would be nice for a therapist to be a mom, only because when I'm talking about the stress of a mom, I don't want this other woman thinking that I hate being a mom. No, it just can be stressful, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a mom, you understand the stress that comes along with it, but you also understand the love that you have for those little babies. So
Right.
it's just one of those things that's that connection. That's where I
Hmm.
feel safe to be able to sit here and have that mom guilt conversation because
Right.
she could truly have walked. probably, I'm gonna say completely, but maybe walk those shoes.
Yeah.
She can feel some of those same patterns and see it. So
Yeah.
I think that's so important.
And I
So let me
think with
ask
you
you this.
saying that, I think that that's a good thing in the sense of when we're having this conversation about the stigma around mental health. You said the stressor of being a mom, I would likely seek a therapist that is a mom as well or can relate, right? I want people to start to know that when you're seeking therapy, it can be for anything. It does not have to be like something where going back to the mental illness diagnosis. It doesn't have to be that. It can really be whether it's grief, and grief is around any loss. It's not just the loss of a physical person in the sense of death. Grief is the loss of a employment. It could be the loss of a home. It could be a loss in a relationship.
A job.
Like, yes, like that's grief, right? But then also somebody could be transitioning careers, right? Okay, so you want to come to therapy to process that transition and what that looks like for you moving forward. I think that when I think about going to therapy, I go once a month because I'm in a maintenance phase. I don't have anything like stressing me in my life that's coming up where I need to see somebody weekly. But I do need to do a check-in every month because I want to make sure that I'm good. I see clients, but also I navigate being a widow with adult children.
Mhm.
So there's times that that can be challenging. And so
Yeah.
I just want to be able to process the thoughts and emotions that come up for me in parenting adult children. And maybe not even, just like supporting them, right? Um, by myself.
Yeah.
So I want people to start to normalize therapy is not just related to a mental illness. It can just, be where this is coming up in life and I want to talk about this. I want to be able to process the thoughts and emotions that comes from this experience, from
Right.
what's going on in my life. Some people get sick, right? They're no longer able to do the things that they once did. They may get a diagnosis of whether it's diabetes, high blood pressure, whatever that might be, right? They're now trying to learn how to be healthier, eat healthier, change things in their life. And in that brings about emotions, brings about navigating the thoughts that come up from now being able to work on being healthier. That's another reason that you would seek therapy. So
Yeah.
I just really was like, when you brought up the stressor of a mom and then possibly looking for a therapist that's a mom that can relate, I just want people to know there's so many things or reasons why people come to therapy. And
Mhm.
I hope that from this episode, from the conversation, that people take away that it's nothing wrong with it. It really is beneficial, it's healthy to check on your mental health, to seek mental health and therapy services, to not just focus on physical only. They go
Mhm.
hand in hand.
Right. Right. I think that's so big, and I think that that's, like, the perfect thing to say, right? Because another huge stigma is if you go to therapy, you have a mental illness. And it's a difference between a mental illness and checking on your mental health. And that's where, again, like you said, you list all those things that people can come to therapy for, and it's not a mental illness. Like, transitioning in life, that's not a mental illness. It's just I'm transitioning and I wanna, have an outlet to be able to do this with, right? To talk through the things of this new
Mhm.
job and the stress that new job is coming, but just because I have stress from a new job don't make me have a mental illness.
Right.
No. And so I
Yeah.
think that that's like the biggest thing to break down that barrier to understand just because you coming to check on you, your emotions, your how you're feeling, how you're processing things, that does not mean you have a mental illness.
Exactly. It does not.
Okay?
And
So
so
this was a great topic. This
I'm
was a
so
great
glad.
topic.
Yeah. I'm like, listen, let's get this out here because people
Yes.
need to know that
Mhm.
it's okay. And you need to also be dismantling the stigma around mental health. Share it with your friends and family. Let them know that
Mhm.
it's okay. If you are one that seek therapy, we want you to be open in talking about, okay, I go to therapy, not carrying shame or keeping it a secret.
Yes, I
Let them
agree.
know the benefit of therapy.
I agree. Encourage them to go too, it never will
Right.
hurt. So, and it never hurts to build your relationship by going to, if it's family therapy, couples, counseling, things of that nature, that never hurts either. So, I
That's
mean,
a
I
whole
really
nother subject,
enjoy.
that couples counseling. Listen, don't wait until you have
Mhm.
issues. You want to maintain and do the maintenance in a relationship.
What is it? Don't wait until it's too late. All right. So thanks for tuning in and to Empower and Ignite Transformation. Again, send in some topics that you would like to hear us discuss, and we'll go from there. All right.
And remember to subscribe and like. Take care.
See you next time.